Okay. Senator, it's Jack Fink. Can you hear me?
I can.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
Are you set?
Ready to go on this end.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time. First, your reaction to the fact that House Democrats are poised to vote to impeach President Trump later today.
Well, I think today is a sad day for the House of Representatives, and it's a sad day for the country. What we've seen the last several months has been nothing less than a partisan show trial. That House Democrats, I think, are motivated by hatred for the president. And what we saw in terms of the proceedings that they've had is it was entirely a one-sided proceeding. They didn't allow the White House lawyers to cross-examine witnesses. They didn't allow the minority to even call witnesses. And we are seeing for the first time in history the House of Representatives poised to vote to impeach a president with no allegation of any criminal conduct, indeed no allegation that any law was violated. And that is contrary to the constitutional standard. The Constitution sets out a standard for impeachment that you can impeach a president for treason, bribery, or high crimes and misdemeanors. And the House Democrats, the evidence that they produce doesn't meet that standard, and yet you're going to see a partisan vote later today to impeach. Now, the good news, Jack, is after that it'll come to the Senate, and I'm confident the Senate will conduct a much more fair proceeding, a proceeding that protects due process, much more fair than the House did. I think the trial will likely be in early January, and we're going to allow both sides to present their cases. The House managers will be given an opportunity to present their case, but the president will also be given a fair opportunity to defend himself. And at the end of it, I am confident these claims are going to be rejected because what the House has put forward doesn't meet the constitutional threshold.
Do you believe what the president said on that call was wrong?
What the president said on that call is he asked another foreign government to investigate corruption. That is inherently within the authority of the president. There was significant evidence of corruption. In particular, you had Hunter Biden, the son of the vice president, who was paid up to $83,000 a month to serve on the board of the largest natural gas company in Ukraine. That's $1 million a year. That's nearly 10 times what the directors of ExxonMobil are paid. And Hunter Biden had no background in oil and gas, no background relevant to the company, but his father was vice president of the United States. And indeed, Vice President Biden has bragged about, and he's on video bragging about this, that he blocked $1 billion in foreign aid and loan guarantees to Ukraine until Ukraine fired the Ukrainian prosecutor that was potentially investigating the company on which his son sat on a board and was being paid $1 million a year. That is significant prima facie evidence of corruption, and I think the president and the Department of Justice were fully within their authority to investigate that corruption. And if you look at what's happening in the House Democrats' case has collapsed. You know, just 3-4 weeks ago, Jack, we heard all the Democrats, the word they were saying over and over again was bribery. And there was a reason for that. It's been publicly reported. The Democratic Campaign Committee did some polling and focus group testing, and they found that bribery polled really badly, that people don't like bribery, that bribery is bad. And so every House Democrat began saying bribery, bribery, bribery. Well, if you look at the articles of impeachment the House is voting on today, they don't have an article on bribery. They don't have, remember they used to be talking about quid pro quo every day? Quid pro quo is not alleged in the articles of impeachment. And the reason is when the evidence came in, they didn't have the evidence to prove that. And so the position of the House Democrats is that you can impeach a president with no demonstration of criminal conduct without even demonstrating any federal law was violated. They don't so much as allege the president has a speeding ticket. That is an abuse of the constitutional process. And the reason the House Democrats are doing this is that their far left base hates the president. They disagree with him politically. They wanted to impeach him since the day he was elected, and they're mad at the American people for electing him. Well, you know, if you have policy and political disagreements for someone, the remedy is to try to beat them at the ballot box, to try to beat them in an election. It's not to abuse the constitutional process and impeach a president just because you disagree with him. Sadly, that's what the House is doing today.
I spoke with one House Democrat who told me that he believes the president presents a clear and present danger to democracy and national security. What's your reaction to that?
Well, you know what? House Democrats have been saying that since November 2016. I get that they don't like Donald Trump. I get that they disagree with Donald Trump. They're entitled to that view. What they're not entitled to do is abuse the constitutional standard. And if this is the standard, what this means is every president is going to be impeached going forward if the House happens to be in the opposing party. That's wrong. Listen, you know, what I hear when I'm back home in Texas, Texans want us to focus on doing our jobs, want us to focus on lower taxes, less job-killing regulations, higher wages, more opportunity. But House Democrats are not interested in doing their jobs. Their only focus is attacking the president, and I think a whole lot of Texans are saying, move on. We've got an election next year. Focus on delivering for the men and women of Texas. That's certainly my focus, and it's what Congress ought to be doing.
You touched on this a little bit, but now after today, this will go to the Senate for a trial, as you mentioned. What is it that you would like to see? Because there's been a lot of debate among Republicans as to whether they want to present witnesses that we didn't hear from, or just have a short trial, no witnesses, and acquit.
Well, the way I expect things to proceed is in early January, the trial will commence. The trial will be presided over by the Chief Justice of the United States, John Roberts. All 100 senators will be in our desks. We're not allowed to speak during the trial in open session, which means you're not going to see Elizabeth Warren and me going 15 rounds in the middle of the trial. Instead, we will sit at our desks and listen to the evidence that is presented. I would expect the trial to begin with a fairly detailed presentation by the House managers as they walk through the evidence, they walk through their legal arguments, and then I would expect a comparable presentation from the White House lawyers as they walk through the president's defense, the facts that they're putting forward and their legal arguments. And then I expect we'll have a debate as to whether additional testimony is needed. I'll tell you, my view is if the president wants to call witnesses in his defense, the House denied him that opportunity. They denied him due process. I think the Senate should give him the opportunity to call witnesses. That means if the president wants to call Hunter Biden, if he wants to call the whistleblower, both are potentially really important fact witnesses, the president ought to have the right to do so. And then I'm confident at the end of hearing the evidence, at the end of hearing the arguments, we're going to vote. And these claims are going to be rejected. And the reason they're going to be rejected is that the House hasn't met the constitutional threshold of treason, bribery, or high crimes or misdemeanors. They haven't alleged it. They don't allege any violation of federal criminal law. This is, at the end of the day, a partisan attack from the House of Representatives. It's not driven by the facts or evidence. And I'm confident that's what the Senate will conclude at the end of the trial.